Welcome to Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockrell. Lessons in leadership, management, and customer service. You can create magic too. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry. And as always, I have with me Lee Cockrell. And Lee, you are best known for your time with Disney, but you're also a very good writer. You have 3 great books out, and you have a blog that has many, many posts on it for going back several years. So let's talk about writing today.
Yeah, that's a great subject. I think not only can't communicate, you get in trouble in life. You need to be able to write. You need to be able to speak. So I'll be looking forward to this one.
Okay, I gathered some questions from some writers, aspiring writers, that these are questions they have for you. So let's start with Devani Alderson. She said, what are your daily rituals that have made you a successful writer?
Well, I have a ritual and I have a routine, and I'm extremely disciplined. That's the problem in life. You got to be disciplined. So every morning, my basic routine when I'm in Orlando is I get up, I go to Starbucks from 6:30 to 7:30. I will either meet with people who want to meet with me, or I read the New York Times or Wall Street Journal just to kind of get new ideas for leadership or management issues, or, you know, the paper's full of leadership failures and leadership successes. So I get a lot of it in there. I come home and maybe I talk to my wife, spend half an hour messing around, and about 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 or 10:30, I write every single day until I finish the book I'm working on, or the piece, or the blog, or whatever I'm doing. So I schedule it in my day planner. I make an appointment with myself from 8 to 10:30, and then I get to work on it. And so routine is really important. One of the biggest problems publishers are having right now are writers are signing contracts and getting large advances, but they're not finishing the book on time. You get about a year after you sign a contract if you're going to go to a major publisher. If you're going to self-publish, you can set your own deadline, but I would suggest that everybody set a deadline so you got something that's putting pressure on you to work against. So I get done early, and most writers out there are getting sued right now because they've got the money, but they haven't turned in the manuscript. And so that's how I do it, the discipline. Schedule the priorities in your life, and you'll be surprised. You spend 2.5 hours a day. It doesn't take long to write a book.
Devani has one additional question for you. Do you believe in writer's block?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I only scheduled 2.5 hours. I tried to write all day once, and I about committed suicide. I mean, it was like nothing would come. Nothing was there. And I think getting in the right environment, too. I get in a quiet place. You know, I wrote my last book in Carmel, California. We rented a house on the beach, and I got up every morning. It was beautiful, overlooking the ocean, and I wrote that book. Literally, I got that book done, 90% of it in 30 days. So I think the right environment needs to be quiet. Phone's not ringing, you're not being interrupted. So you might want to go to the public library. You might want to go to Starbucks where nobody knows you and sit with your laptop and write. Any place where it's fun for you, and you enjoy it. And I used to go to the library a lot. I love the library. When I'd go take my son skiing, I'd go to the local library while he and his buddies were skiing. I'd go get me a coffee and go in there, and I'd get a ton of work done. And so Monday morning I was ready to go, even back in my work life. So, yeah, you really got to think about it that way. You can get writer's block, and then it's better when you do, just put it down. Start again tomorrow. Get some sleep. Get some rest. Find a new place to do it. Get on Google and Google some ideas where you're having a block on a subject. You can find some interesting stuff on there with the subject you're looking for, what'll start to get your brain moving again. I used Google quite a bit to get more and more ideas when I was stuck on a kind of a chapter where I needed more material and I needed some new thoughts. So we don't have many excuses today. There's plenty there, but yeah. And I would say don't try to write more than a couple hours a day. Maya Angelou, she said, they asked her how she wrote books. She said she rented a hotel room and went there at 5:30 in the morning and wrote till noon every day. And she said, boy, in 30 days she had a book because nobody bothered her, nobody knew where she was, and her phone didn't ring. And that's how she did it. That's how she isolated herself, so you don't get interruptions. So that's certainly a way to think about how to get out of it.
I have another question from Dorothy D'Souza Gudis. Who do you imagine as your audience when you write?
Well, you know, my first book was on leadership, so I was thinking I was trying to write that book, Creating Magic, 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney, for everybody, because I wanted it to be generic enough that anybody out there in the world could become a better leader no matter what business they're in. I don't care if they're a CPA running a grocery store or a gas station, or they're an entrepreneur. So I wrote it from that perspective. And I had an advantage because I had the Disney connection, so I could tell Disney stories, and everybody's been to Disney or they've been exposed to Disney some way. So that's how I thought about that audience. Then, the customer rules. I really thought about people who are really giving service. I probably a lot there. I thought about hospitality, restaurants, airlines, hospitals, that are trying to give better patient service. So, that kind of thing, and tried to write generically enough, again, that they could think about when they're reading the book. Nurse could say, wow, we could do that, as well as maybe somebody reading the same chapter in a grocery store could say, wow, we could do that. And so that's how I try to write them, so the audience is bigger and then more people can use it. And then time management, let me tell you, that is for everybody because everybody's disorganized. That was easy. There's not a person in the world that doesn't need to get better at keeping their life under control. So I thought about everybody, from teenagers, young people, to people of every age. It's never too late to get more organized, get better, and get more focused on keeping your life under control, and trying to really give people that message that it's never too late. Don't believe you're just disorganized. There's nothing can be done about it. There is something can be done about it. You can learn this system. So time management magic turned out, and I'm getting notes from people of all walks of life around the world, by the way. So that's a big constituency and a big audience. When you get the world as your audience, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say it is. Now, you've written those books that are for a general audience because everybody can become a better leader. Everybody needs to improve their time management. But let's say you were writing a book specific. I'm just going to make something up. I don't know if you're writing anything even close to this, but let's say you were going to write Creating Magic in Healthcare, because I know you speak a lot for healthcare professionals. How would you approach a specific niche like healthcare differently than you would a book that you're writing for a wide general audience?
Well, if I was doing healthcare, I had a big advantage. I think I've told this story before, but my wife got very sick back in 08 and 09, and I spent 64 days in the hospital with her. She almost died, and we had a tough go, and I ended up with depression and had to get treated. And I got a dose of, I saw so many nurses, so many doctors, so many techs. I saw the cafeteria in the hospital every day, morning, noon, and night. I saw all kinds of opportunities to deliver better patient care. So I kind of was an expert by accident. But I think if you're going to write for a certain audience, research is important. Now, I ended up getting research the wrong way because out of just having to do it. But I would say I would interview a lot of nurses. I would interview doctors. I would probably go to the hospitals in the area, and I'd go eat in the cafeteria. I'd go sit down with 3 nurses having lunch and ask them what their most important things are in their business. What are they frustrated about? How do the doctors treat them? How many times a week do they think about quitting, and why? And what could we do to make their environment better? I think going to the source and talking to the people who do the work and really become an expert yourself on it as much as you can before you sit down to write, so that you got to feel it in your heart. Let me tell you, healthcare nurses, they get it. They are incredible people. They have incredibly hard jobs. And I knew that, and I felt it after I went through that experience. I spoke to 7,000 nurses last year in one audience sitting in the convention center, and I was able to reach them with these stories about what I went through and how much I appreciated all the things they did that they didn't have to do. And literally got a standing ovation from 7,000 nurses. It's one of my best days. And I think they've got to know that you know what you're talking about. And what I went through, I knew what I was talking about. So that would be that one. If I went to write about some other audience, I'd probably have to go do more research and try to learn more about it and talk to a lot of people and talk to the experts and do a lot of research on the internet about it. And then when you're ready and you think you really are an expert, you can go out and start writing about it.
Okay, we've got some questions from Judy Heaney McKee. Are you an outliner, or do you write by the seat of your pants?
I'm pretty much seat of the pants. What I do is, like the first one, I decided it was going to be Great Leader Strategy, so I sat down and defined the title of each strategy, each chapter. I knew in advance I had 13 chapters, which included 10 strategies, and that I needed to now fill it in. So I would write on strategy 1 for a while, and then maybe I'd get a little block, and then I'd go over to strategy 4 and work on that for a while, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. My material comes from daily life as I think of something, or I read something in the New York Times this morning, or I picked up another book and read about it, got another idea. I'd go back and fill that in that strategy.